There we go. We are live. Hello, Avil. How's it going? How are we feeling? Silverstone Home Grand Prix this weekend. Very, very excited indeed. A few changes as well that we need to talk about coming into this weekend for lots of the different teams. But we're there. How are we feeling? Let me double check everything's there. Best race weekend of the season. That is big words. Brazil. You never Silverstone versus Brazil. It's a tricky one, I suppose. Like, it's very, very equivalent in terms of there can be chaos. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, Trigger. How's it going? Preset. Joseph's in here. Sarcastically hopeful. The new setup looks good. Thank you very much. Got some new lights going on. It's a bit dark in here still, but we'll get there. We'll get there. Was the crown next to my name? That is a good question that I have no idea. Oh, there is some crowns going on. I have no idea what the crowns are, but YouTube has introduced something new. Something new for us to have a little play around with. Possibly something to do with that. Hello, Sally's in there as well. Lewis on pole. Then we box for Inters. I feel positive about Lewis Hamilton this weekend. I know it's Silverstone. I know he's been on the podium 13 times in a row. I think he's won here. Is it that he's won here 9 times and he's going for 10, or is it that he's won here 10 times? It's something like that. It's pretty ridiculous in terms of his ability to just continue to churn out ridiculous results when it comes to Silverstone. Like, even last year, he was going through an insane drought of not picking up podiums, not getting anywhere near race wins, came to Silverstone, top of the podium, got another win under his belt, and he just goes for it, doesn't he? He's like a completely different animal, is Lewis Hamilton, when it comes to the Silverstone circuit. If we look at the Drivers' Championship, even if he does go on to win it, it won't make too much of a difference to where he is. I suppose he's in a very similar situation as to what he was in last year at Mercedes, really. I think he's only got 6 more points than he did last year, which, you know, when we were looking at, can he move over to Ferrari? Ferrari might be in the realms of possibility of winning championships this year. That's maybe a little bit disappointing that Lewis Hamilton is only 6 points better off. I suppose he's had a couple of races in there that have gone pretty horrendous. Why am I standing? I just sort of was setting things up and ended up standing, to be honest. It got to half past. I'm standing. I've got a little football just to keep myself entertained under the desk. Not making me uncomfortable. I feel a little bit more free standing up. And to be fair, it's because of the new desk. Hashtag FlexiSpot. Hashtag soon to be a sponsor. I am doing a brand deal with them. Can I say that in this without saying? I'm doing a brand deal with them in the future, but I've already got the standing desk, so I figured I'd try it out, you know, have a little wander around the office. Will Ferrari let Lewis pass Charles? That is a good question. I don't think so, unless, you know, they are on different strategies. There is a very clear pace difference between the two of them. I think they let each other through if Hamilton is on the better strategy or the better tyre at that time. Maybe not for the win. Maybe that's a slightly different battle that they'll have to get to when they get to it. But I feel like if they are on for a podium and at least keeping the routine of, okay, can Lewis Hamilton continue this streak of podium performances at Silverstone? That's definitely an option for him, right? And I feel like Ferrari will want to keep that going. You don't want to be the team that loses out that, right? He's been able to keep this incredible run going through McLaren, through Mercedes, and then you just have this, he's lost it as soon as he's gone to Ferrari. So, like, they will want that streak to continue. And actually, Ferrari are looking pretty good this weekend. We were worried it was like, is Austria going to be a bit of a one-off when it comes to the pace that Ferrari showed? And, you know, before that, it has been more Max Verstappen, George Russell that have been in and amongst the podium places and causing issues when it's come to race wins for the McLarens that are even more dominant now thanks to those upgrades in Austria. But Ferrari do seem to again be taking steps in the right direction. And again, if you're a Ferrari fan, it's so frustrating because it feels like they now have got a car that could actually be fairly competitive and win races and maybe even fight with the McLarens if they have a good day. The problem is that the Ferrari car kind of suits the tracks and suits the similar conditions to what the McLaren car suits. So I don't know. It's a little bit interesting, isn't it, to see if Ferrari do become competitive, if Ferrari get themselves comfortably second in the Constructors' Championship, like they are right now at the moment, but it's been flitting between the three teams behind McLaren, hasn't it? Ferrari only 1 point ahead of Mercedes, sort of shows you how tight it has been between them. And if Max Verstappen had a teammate who was scoring any points whatsoever, 7 points Yuki Tsunoda has scored. So even if you just scored like 50 points, Max Verstappen and Red Bull would also be really tight in that pack with the Ferrari and Mercedes cars. So it is super competitive behind McLaren, and it's Ferrari and whether or not Ferrari can actually take that step up into this point. Why does Ollie have a penalty point? I think it is because of the spin in Free Practice 3. Should we talk about Free Practice 3 a little bit? I don't know if the times are still up there. They are still up there. But you will notice Charles Leclerc, quickest of the cars in Free Practice 3, which is why I'm a little bit hopeful that Ferrari might have some pace. It's not incredibly warm, but it's not incredibly cool either at Silverstone at the moment. We were expecting it to be a lot hotter. There's also expected to possibly be a little bit rain in and amongst either qualifying or the race. Of course, it's the British Grand Prix weekend. There's going to be every single season under the sun that you see. But it does feel like on the flip side of that, those mixed conditions obviously open the door to the other teams being competitive, because if it is warm, and especially if you've got those high-speed corners like we had in Austria, we just saw the absolute domination that McLaren can put forward. So McLaren are going to be dominant unless there is a little bit of mixed weather conditions. I still think that's going to be the case this weekend, even with Ferrari looking better, even with Verstappen getting to grips with it a little bit. Verstappen on low fuel yesterday, though, was twitchy. I think Verstappen's race pace is looking pretty good from the free practice sessions. I would not expect Max Verstappen to be very high up in qualifying, but you say that at your peril, don't you? You never should count out Max Verstappen, even when it comes to qualifying, even on a weekend where he's not having the best of weekends, because he is just ridiculous, is Max Verstappen. Is indeed my home Grand Prix. In fact, I'm just going to see if I can turn up the light a little bit. Let's bump this up a touch. There we go. Question, are these points things you or YouTube? I assume it's YouTube. I've never seen it before, yeah. I don't know, Kelly. Yeah, I don't actually know. Ollie Behrman penalties. I think it's a little bit harsh. I think the problem was, so if you haven't seen Free Practice 3, Gabriel Bortoleto crashed right at the end of Free Practice 3, brought out the red flags. Big crash. Well, I say crash. He didn't hit the barriers or anything, but a big bump over the hill, and then the front's left suspension on his Stake Sauber car broke, which then sent him into the gravel. There was about a minute left, so they red flagged it. The teams didn't lose out on that much running, really. But then we also had the flip side where Ollie Behrman, as he was coming back into the pits, Ollie Behrman wanted to do... So the pit entry here at Silverstone is a little bit different to the rest. And in fact, if I show you... Have I got the... Maybe this one. Is it on there? Yeah. So you can see the pit entry is really, really sort of deep into turn 15 and before turn 16. It's on a little bit of a kind of curvy straight. It's one of those ones where I'm impressed Formula One doesn't call it a corner, because sometimes you do have those classified as corners. But you can see you come off turn 15 and you go, instead of going through 16, 17, 18, you literally go straight on into the pits. So from that perspective, you're gaining quite a lot. But because of where the pit entry is situated, you want to carry as much speed as possible into the entrance of the pit lane. So you want to basically be going full throttle out of turn 15, imagining that you're sort of going down towards turn 16, but instead you dart into the pits and you can carry even more speed. A little bit Canada-esque, a little bit similar to Canada, where you have that straight into the pits rather than having to do the chicane. And Ollie Bearman was trying to do that, trying to carry lots of speed into the pits, trying to not brake too early. But in doing so, his brakes were a little bit cold because of the red flag and because he was sort of coasting the car into the pits up until that point. So he was trying to practice the pit entry, got it completely wrong, managed to spin the car around, and eventually just meant that, well, the Haas ended up in the barriers on the right-hand side of the pit entry. He managed to keep it going and got it back in, but it is one of those where, like, you're going to get told off by the stewards because of it. And yeah, unfortunately, he is going to get a little punishment for that. Kimi Antonelli also carrying a punishment as well, we should mention. Norris win incoming, sadly. That is not a sadly, in my opinion. Norris win would be very interesting indeed in terms of the Drivers' Championship, because Piastri now 216, Norris 201. So both of the McLarens over 200 points now in the Drivers' Championship. Lando Norris closing that gap again in Austria, can lead the championship come the summer break pretty easily. All he has to do is win all three of the Grand Prix that are left, and then Oscar Piastri can do absolutely nothing about it. Even if Oscar Piastri comes second in every single Grand Prix up until the summer break, Lando Norris would still lead the championship. So that's why we have to think, can we get that battle between Lando and Oscar, and how deep into these sort of races will that go? Or is it going to be a little bit like Canada, where maybe the two McLarens aren't just the front two running cars, and Lando Norris has got a little bit more to do when it comes to trying to lead the championship. Hello, Antonio. Who has a penalty? Kimi Antonelli has a penalty, rolling over from the collision that he had with Max Verstappen in Austria. It's a 3-place grid penalty, and I think it was 2 penalty points off the top of my head. I remember Sarah putting it into the Discord, but I think that was correct. And then, yeah, Bearman also with a penalty. Bearman's, well, both of them a little bit harsh, actually. I think Kimi Antonelli, they could have probably let that one slide. I know he took out Max Verstappen, but he ended his own race as well. I suppose you've got to give some kind of punishment. It was a complete mistake from Kimi Antonelli. Like, there was no malice in that. I don't think he meant to take out Max Verstappen or anything along those lines. I think it was literally just we've gone a little bit too deep into this corner, Kimi, and now you've smashed into the back of a Red Bull. Red Bull was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. Nothing that Max Verstappen could have done about it. Then on the flip side, again, I think Ollie Bearman's penalty a little bit harsh. He was coming into the pits, just kind of made a mistake because his brakes were cold, but it's coming into the pits and you have to be careful because you know cars are coming in behind you. There's a pit limit for a reason and all of those things that go into it as well. So I think both of them a little bit harsh in terms of the penalties for those rookies. They're kind of rookie mistakes, aren't they? They're little mistakes that you expect rookie drivers to make that you don't expect sort of more experienced drivers to make. And you can understand why the stewards do have to give those penalties, but it's like a little bit harsh either way. Loved watching Max get knocked out. He's a whiny little bee. Wow. Okay. There you go. You certainly would have not given Kimi Antonelli a penalty by the sounds of things, but there we are. New room. Yes, indeed, Vincent. New room. Here it is. Well, it's hidden by the driver's standings at the moment. Here it is. I don't know about the blue yet. I think I've got a remote control somewhere. We can change the blue to a slightly different blue. Let me see what I can do. Green? Where's the little thing? Green? Oh. Blue. Is that blue better? That blue might be better, you know. That blue better? No. I think I prefer this one. Slightly lighter blue? I don't know. Let me know what you think. Let me know which colours you would like to see in the background. I suppose it's to do with they consider drivers' experience in the decision. Yeah, that's fair. They shouldn't really be like, well, he's just a rookie. They do kind of have to be like, even though he is a rookie, these are the rules, right? Because especially if, like, say, Lewis Hamilton, when he was in his first season and he was battling for championships, maybe, you know, if they'd have treated him differently because he was a rookie rather than Fernando Alonso, who was fighting the championship with and the Ferraris, like, then we would have been like, well, it can't really, you know, affect the championship just because you're a rookie. Red, orange, and blue. You're asking now. It's just one color. Can I change the color on the track to match the flags on the track? Ooh. Color to match the flags on the track. Oh, I see what you mean. Red flag, yellow flag. I mean, I can. I do have to lean down to change them because the little sensor is right at the bottom there. But we're getting there. We're getting there. I'm going to record some videos today. So this place will finally be, you know, on an actual video. It's been a little while. Basically because we've just been trying to get everything sorted. I was hanging a curtain literally an hour before this stream. So there is a curtain here now. There's a curtain over there now. There's a curtain everywhere. There's curtains in the house. If driver XP was taken into account, I feel like maybe they should get an experience bar, you know? Bottas would still be banned for going bowling back in Hungary. Yeah, very true. Anyhow, we are getting towards qualifying now, which is very nice to see. We have got some crowns still in the chat. Let me know what those crowns do or are or will be. So I'd like to know. Have they got crowns in the other chat too? There's crowns in both chats. Interesting. Good job curtaining. Thank you. They're level. Got a spirit level out and everything. Drill. Very hands-on. But where were we? Max Verstappen, 155 points. Can we now say Max Verstappen is out of the championship battle? 46 points behind Lando Norris. Halfway through the season. Does feel just like a little bit too much. Even for a driver of Max Verstappen's quality, I think we can now quintessentially say Max Verstappen is out of the championship battle. I know he's been saying it for a couple of weeks, but the drivers are always pessimistic and the drivers never really answer the questions as you'd expect them to, do they? I think we can say for certain now, it's done for Max Verstappen this year. There is not going to be back-to-back-to-back-to-back championships. He's going to call it 4 in a row. It's going to be one of the McLarens this time around. The battle really is between him and Russell, which is, you know, the battle that we want to see. The battle that everybody likes to see anyway. If you could pick two drivers, like say you were going into 2026, if you could pick two drivers to be in the championship battle and it to go right down to the wire between two drivers, I think it's pretty difficult not to pick Verstappen versus Russell, right? Just feels like there would be so many storylines just based on the fact that they already have so much history. Even though they haven't had a real battle before in that sense, they have so much history. Hopefully, we get to see that championship battle at some point. See, George Russell would be going for his first championship, Verstappen his 5th championship. So that would be a lovely battle to see. But McLaren, I think for me, is going to be a champion of some kind in a McLaren this year. Whether it's Lando, whether it's Oscar, I don't think we can say quintessentially yet, but I would say Max Verstappen and George Russell now are out of it, unfortunately. Kimi Antonelli's a bit of a weird one. We talked about the Ferraris beforehand and the fact that Leclerc's quality and experience inside of the Ferrari car, maybe I should say, is just outdoing Lewis Hamilton at this point. I don't think Hamilton has been egregiously bad. I think he's had poor weekends, and I think he's been disappointing in his performances, but I think you've got to sort of keep in mind as well that he is learning a brand new car. And I don't think he realized how tricky that was going to be. And to be fair, I didn't really think about the fact that Lewis Hamilton is having to learn basically all of these tracks all over again. And especially when you've got into habits, that is so much harder, isn't it? You know, once you've got into a habit of something, breaking that habit always is a little bit of a tricky place to be in. I think Lewis Hamilton has just found himself trying to break lots of habits this year. And he's talked so much about getting comfortable inside of the Ferrari factory. And there we go. But yeah, Kimi Antonelli, 63 points. It's weird, isn't it? Because the first half of the season actually felt really, really solid. You know, he was doing really well, managing his tyres quite well considering he was a rookie, continuing to perform in qualifying. And qualifying pace hasn't really dropped off too much. Still got that qualifying ability. You know, he's not troubling the top end of the pack yet, but qualifying fairly well. And then you have the flip side where in the last 6-7 races, or sort of first 5 races, 6 races up to Miami, you got that obviously pole position in Miami, and it was like, this is all click now. Kimi Antonelli's the real deal. Since that pole position in Miami, it's not been entirely his fault. There's been problems inside of the Mercedes car as well, and the Mercedes engines have not been as reliable as we were hoping for them to be or expecting them to be. Like, I just asked Williams. But Antonelli has just dipped off a touch in terms of his performances. So I'd like to see another solid Antonelli performance, you know, rounding out DNFs and then crashing out in Monaco qualifying, another DNF, and then also smashing into Max Verstappen last time out in Austria. It's almost it's too many now. You've only got so many rookie cars you can play, and I want to see Kimi Antonelli actually put in a good performance again. Alex Albon starting in 8th place in the Drivers' Championship still has a little bit of a gap to the Ocon, Hulkenberg, Hadjar beforehand. And I was talking about before how I think Albon is just absolutely guaranteed that 8th place now, if not 9th place, if, you know, Yuki Tsunoda does find the form inside of that Red Bull that we kind of expect from that second Red Bull seat. But I think actually the amount of points that the likes of Ocon, Hulkenberg, Hadjar, now Alonso seem to be picking up fairly regularly. Liam Lawson last time out in Austria. I don't think 42, especially if the Williams has completely fallen off a cliff, like it feels like it had. Like, the Williams car is really struggling at the moment. And it does feel like it is starting to, you know, be in a position. Well, they even had free practice 1. They just did a race simulation because they were so worried about the performance of that Williams car. Maybe 42 points isn't enough because Tsunoda isn't getting in the points that often. Kimi Antonelli is having those races where, because he's a rookie, he is falling out of it. Ferrari have weekends where they're not really quite there. There's going to be the odd weekend where Verstappen, Russell, Norris, Piastri kind of drop out of races. And that's opening up the window for enough of those midfield drivers to score enough points, where I do think it's going to actually be really, really competitive. Where last year we just had 8 drivers finishing in the top 8 positions, and those back marker drivers were just fighting over 9th and 10th place. That isn't really the case anymore. Those back marker drivers and midfield drivers are fighting over 6th place, 7th place. And the points margin between that is so volatile. Actually, it makes it so much more interesting for that midfield pack. So Albon in 8th for the minute, but Hulkenberg is on an absolute flyer. Like, that Stake Sauber car seems to have finally found its feet in Formula One right as we're ending this regulation cycle. But Gabriel Bortoleto getting his first points on the board in Austria. Hulkenberg going from last to scoring points in Austria as well. Just seems like a completely new team that they've got right there. The RB is still really good. Isaac Hadjar's looking to bounce back. Liam Lawson had his first proper decent performance in Austria and maybe, you know, has found a little bit of form inside of that RB car after the disappointment of being dropped by Red Bull. Just feels like that midfield pack is really opening up, you know. All we need is Pierre Gasly to actually perform inside of that Alpine, but Alpine are having a real tough time in the Constructors' Championship as well. But outside of that, Williams, Racing Bulls, Haas, Aston Martin, Stake Sauer, it just feels like any of those cars can be right in the mix. And actually, I think the Constructors' Championship, in terms of those sort of 5th to 9th place at the moment, could be all over the place. Like, that could easily swap around. And then we only need like one Brazil race like we had last year where both of the Alpines are on the podium, and then it completely reshuffles the whole pack anyway. But I'm just really excited. I know I should probably be most excited at the fact that we are going to have a McLaren Constructors' Championship win, and I am. We got that last year as well, though, McLaren fans, so it's nothing new, you know, nothing new to us. We are going to get another Constructors' Championship win, but I think on the flip side, one of the main things I'm really interested to see develop over the second half of the season is that battle in that kind of midfield pack, because it's going to have such an impact on 2026 as well. Very excited, but we are about to get into qualifying as it stands. Not really Gasly's fault. The Alpine is just bad. Oh yeah, certainly. Like, that Alpine is absolutely horrendous, and unfortunately Doohan didn't really get a chance. Now Colapinto seemingly is going to be replaced as well, so they're running out of choices, and they're running out of drivers, and they're running out of options really at Alpine. Another team principal is set to come in. It's all happening, isn't it? It's very Alpine in that everything is going wrong all at the same time. But let's get into qualifying, shall we? Two things, super quick. Just want to get your opinion on it. Oh, there's no live timings available at the moment. We have a green light at the end of the pit, so let me see if I can reset this and apply it. There we go. Bortoleto is out on track and is showing on the map. Do we prefer the map with these split sectors? So the red, the blue, the yellow for each of the 3 sectors. Or would you like to return to the one color map? This is the question I have for you. This is brand new from our friends over at Multiviewer. They've introduced the separation of the 3. I can also add in the DRS zones if you would really like to see those too. I want your opinion, because this is not just about me, it's about you as well. When it comes to the track map, do you want the split? Do you want the DRS zones? I've added in the pit lane, so you can see the pit lane now on the new style map from Multiviewer. I think this is still in beta though, so give it a little bit. Like the sectors, one color map is the better one. No, the colors are fine. Oh, keep the colors, split the sectors with DRS. Okay, I can show you. I'll show you the one with DRS in a second, but let me just double check everything is all loaded for us. Where's the settings? Live timing layouts. Here you go. If I show the DRS zones, it does add these green sort of strokes around the 2 DRS zones. Do you want the DRS zones? Multicolor with DRS zones. DRS zones, please. This is good for quali. Okay. Do a poll. I could have done a poll, but I was just going by the general feeling. Thank you for subscribing as well. A couple of new subscribers rolling in there. Thank you very much indeed. No penalties, investigations going on. No track limits infringements either. And Gabriel Bortoleto is going to get us underway. After that spin at the end of free practice 3, he is the first man out on track. Wants to get a little bit more experience maybe. New front wing, new suspension on that Stake Sauer car. But it's not going to stop the Brazilian, as we are starting to see a little trickle of rain. There's no full rain at the moment, as you can see at the top of the standings. But we're just starting to see the first few drops of rain coming. So this could be absolutely perfect for Gabriel Bortoleto, because if the heavens do open, we might be about to see a Gabriel Bortoleto top of the timing sheets if nobody else can beat him. We've got Bortoleto, Hulkenberg, Colapinto, Stroll, Gasly, and Albon out on track at the minute. Gabriel Bortoleto flying a lap as it stands, although Lance Stroll has just come first through the first sector and has taken that fastest time from him. Then Pierre Gasly goes even faster in the first sector still. Bortoleto still the quickest in the second sector, but here comes Hulkenberg. Can his teammate beat Bortoleto's time? No. So Hulkenberg is going a little bit slower than his rookie teammate. Bortoleto sets the standard at a 127.4. Nico Hulkenberg, had a little bit of a wobble, did Nico Hulkenberg. And that was at turn 17. So Hulkenberg comes across the line. He's actually not that much slower than his teammate. 0.02 of a second, considering he had that little wobble on the exit of turn 17. That's pretty impressive from the German. Lance Stroll does come across the line to go quickest of anybody, though. Albon is currently quickest in the first sector. Colapinto quickest in the second sector. But here comes Gasly to go even quicker than the Aston Martin by 0.3 of a second, almost into the 126s, a 127 dead. And Colapinto goes a 120. Oh, sorry, that was Colapinto with a 127 dead. Gasly with a 127.1. Came across the line almost. Oh, and here comes Alex Albon. He's purple in the first sector. He's purple in the second sector. And the Williams, absolutely smashes the rest of the midfield pack out of the water. A 126.392 on Williams' home Grand Prix. Alex Albon not messing about. His teammate Carlos Sainz only just making his way out of the pits now. We've got Antonelli just coming around the final couple of corners. Max Verstappen has started his flying lap ahead. He's just going through turn 3 now on your screens. And Lando Norris is coming across the start-finish line as well. Of course, we are only in free practice 1. So we're only looking for those bottom 5 drivers, but it starts to give us a little hint as to who is going to be where, doesn't it? As Max Verstappen then goes quicker than Alex Albon through the first sector and puts in a purple first sector time. Kimi Antonelli can't quite match Max Verstappen's time, but is still pretty swift through that first sector as well. Watching the rest of the pack coming around. Oscar Piastri is also starting his flying lap. Lewis Hamilton is now coming across the start-finish line as well. So keep an eye on those sector times. They are going to start to roll in. Verstappen was quicker than Norris through the first sector as well. Yuki Tsunoda very slow through the first sector. Is it raining? It's just drizzling a little bit. It's not causing any kind of issues yet. Not going to see any intermediate tyres thrown onto the cars anytime soon, but it's just threatening to be a problem, as it always does at Silverstone. The weather is just making itself known, I would say, more than anything else. Just sort of reminding the drivers, it could rain at any point. Max Verstappen then does indeed come across the line fastest. Kimi Antonelli couldn't keep up that good pace from the first sector. A little bit slower in the middle part of the lap, and Antonelli slots into 4th place as Lando Norris then comes across the line a 1/10 of a second off Max Verstappen. Was purple in the final sector, Lando Norris, but couldn't quite match Max in the first and second sectors. Charles Leclerc is just coming around the final couple of corners as well. Let's see how this goes for Charles across the only 3rd fastest. Actually a little bit further off the pace than I thought it was going to be. I was expecting that to be a little bit closer to Lando Norris's time, if not near Max Verstappen's, as Oscar Piastri now comes across the line to go quickest. Piastri quickest in the final sector of anybody. Lewis Hamilton quicker than his teammate by just under a 1/10 of a second, as Fernando Alonso also enters the chat. Just a 1/10 of a second slower than Oscar Piastri, goes 3rd fastest. George Russell at his home Grand Prix goes quicker than his ex-teammate Lewis Hamilton. So Russell now 5th to Hamilton 6th. Ollie Behrman, of course, another Briton on the track that we've got this year. going a tenth and a half down on Oscar Piastri's time through the second sector, but he will be absolutely desperate, will Ollie Behrman, to make sure that he gets through to at least a Q2, if not a Q3, in front of the home crowd. A lot of Britons on the grid this year, and full grandstands to support them. Here comes Ollie Behrman. He's 8th fastest, quicker than Charles Leclerc, just behind Isaac Hadjar in that kind of midfield pack. Although you could argue Fernando Alonso is also part of that midfield pack, and he's up in 3rd place. Yuki Tsunoda is finally on a flying lap as well. Tsunoda currently last on the timing sheets, but the only driver yet to set a real flying lap time. Bortoleto and Hulkenberg have dropped down into the bottom 5. Lance Stroll and Pierre Gasly with the 2 Stake Sauber cars at the moment. Yuki Tsunoda, final driver to come across the start-finish line. And everybody's going to reset and readjust. We're seeing some of those drivers that came out first coming out again. Majority of drivers making their way back into the pits. Albon's just made his way into the pit lane. Verstappen, Antonelli as well. So Hadjar splitting the Ferraris again. It's where he likes to be, does Isaac Hadjar. He's found his place in this world, and it is nestled between the 2 Ferrari cars. Ollie Behrman, also Ferrari powered, and a Ferrari Junior in and amongst it as well. Maybe Hadjar should be racing for Ferrari. Just joining in with those Ferrari powered. Where's Esteban Ocon? He's down in 15th place in the other Ferrari powered car. Ooh. And George Russell asking about what they're doing at Mercedes, wondering about the tyres, going on this set of tyres again. So George Russell currently 5th fastest. Seems a little bit panicked inside of that Mercedes car. Maybe not the balance he was expecting as he was going around the Silverstone circuit. I don't think he's under threat at the moment. Colapinto, Gasly, Stroll, Bortoleto, and Hulkenberg are the 5 drivers that need to improve. Lewis needs to feed all of our delusions. If anyone can do it at Silverstone, oh! And there's a big spin. It's an Alpine. I think it is Franco Colapinto into the barriers at the final turn. He has managed to keep the car going. Wow, how he must have hit the wall literally perfectly side on at that point. Yellow flags are being waved in that final part of the lap as Franco Colapinto is going very slowly indeed. The green flag has been waved. Colapinto still going very slowly down the pit straight though. Needs to get a little bit of a shift on. Let's have a watch of the onboard here with Franco Colapinto. Comes up to turn 16, through 17. Ooh, maybe just gets a little bit too much curve on the exit. And barrels through. Luckily, he's not going too quickly there because he's on the accelerator. He's sort of trying to get the Alpine lined up to go through turn 18 with a bit of speed. Then also gets slowed down by the gravel on the exit of that corner. And yeah, actually does kind of nestle next to the wall rather than impacting the wall too heavily. Just spins around through turn 17 and then hits the wall, but delicately, I would say, inside of that Alpine car. Probably didn't feel delicate to him though. Oh, and the red flags have then been waved because Franco Colapinto has come to a stop on the exit of turn 2. So that is going to be Franco Colapinto's qualifying done and dusted, and a red flag for us to wait for all of the drivers to return to the pit lane. 6 minutes and 49 seconds on the board. More than enough time for the rest of the field to do another lap. It's just unfortunate for those drivers who are already coming out on that set of tyres. Bortoleto. Ouch. Definitely didn't oversleep again this week. It's all right, Sarah. It's all right. You have a very difficult time zone for these European races. But luckily, it's just come to a stop for you, as if they knew. Franco Colapinto sending his Alpine into the barriers at turn 17. Well, through turn 18, really. Exit of 17 through turn 18. And unfortunately, has had to then come to a stop on the exit of turn 2. So that is the end of Franco Colapinto's qualifying. It's still not looking good for the Argentinian inside of that Alpine, is it? he still just doesn't quite seem to be settled. And another weekend where we're sort of saying, how long do you give Colapinto? Well, is this an improvement on Jack Doohan? I would argue probably not. Has Franco really done anything since he's come into the team? Although you could argue Doohan didn't really do too much either in those first 5 races of the season. It's a very sort of difficult one to judge, isn't it? Because Alpine are the slowest car right now. The expectations are incredibly high, but the performance of the car is incredibly low. And they never seem to quite meet each other, do they? Flavio Briatore is talking about how he wants these cars to be performing, and he sort of sets these deadlines of, you've got 5 races, you've got 6 races to prove yourself. And it's very difficult to prove yourself inside of a car that doesn't really offer you any kind of pace. So, Franco Colapinto out of the session. Colapinto, very good. Yeah. He did have a little bit of a reputation for this at Williams. I don't think this is surprising that Franco Colapinto has ditched some Alpine cars into the barriers. He did do that quite a few times at Williams. Like, I'm thinking of the Las Vegas qualifying where he absolutely binned that Williams car. Brazil, where he also, I know that was wet, so you can maybe give him a little bit of the benefit of the doubt there. But there was a good few weekends where Colapinto really did just obliterate a Williams. Not a big crash in terms of the Alpine here, just a little bit of damage to the front right of the wing. So the wing end plate has come away from its positioning a touch, but didn't want to limp all the way back round, I don't think, Franco Colapinto, and therefore came to a stop at the exit of turn 2. Has exited the car, is completely fine. Nothing wrong with Franco Colapinto. They're just going to try and wheel that car. Can they wheel it back down the pits? They're sort of on the exit of where the pits are, or are they just going to wait until they get a crane out there to move that car? Either way, we're waiting for Franco Colapinto. Didn't Franco have the highest damage bill? Possibly. I feel like Albon... I mean, that Williams car last year was pretty difficult to drive, and therefore Albon also did quite a lot of damage to that Williams. So did Logan Sargent. We can go through the Williams drivers. They all had their big collisions over the course of the year. I subbed. Thank you, Robert. Appreciate it. In fact, there was quite a few new subs there. There was Bert. There was Koa. Appreciate it, lads. Join the team. Nearing 130,000 subscribers. How long is the red flag going to be? We have not been given a restart time yet. Franco Colapinto's car is just being put onto the back of a lorry. So, unlikely to be too much longer. But we do need to wait until that Alpine car and all the marshals are completely away from the track. Kimi Antonelli being shown there on our screens. Max pole. Do you think over a Piastri or a Norris? It's interesting as well that we've got this stop because it was threatening to rain. Hadn't started raining. There was a little bit of drizzle threatening to rain. Now is not raining. So if the red flag kind of cuts out here, unfortunately, Bortoletto, Ocon, Hulkenberg, well, Colapinto's out anyway, and Gasly will not get another chance if it does start raining all of a sudden. And because we've got this red flag, obviously that pushes Q2 a little bit later, pushes Q3 a little bit later. And that rain is expected to come at some point this afternoon. So maybe we are pushing it into the time period where we will have a window of rain at some point during this qualifying session. Corinne Chandok talking about Yuki Tsunoda's time. Tsunoda is the man on the bubble at the moment. Yuki might get a good result today. Needs something a little bit special. He's down in 15th at the moment, which, would get him through to Q2, but by the skin of his teeth. And again, we're sort of expecting him to be just that little bit close to Verstappen every weekend. He wasn't too far off Verstappen last weekend. I think it was, 2.5 tenths. But then you look at that, and 2.5 tenths in Austria is very different to 2.5 tenths across the other tracks, because I think that's one thing that we maybe don't talk about. And I think actually a better way to look at the difference in qualifying times, because we often say, oh, he was just a couple of tenths shy, or like he was, 3 tenths shy, something like that, of your teammate. I think a better way would actually be to do the percentiles, because if you think Austria is such a short track, it's like just over a minute, whereas here you've got nearly a minute 30, minute 25, minute 26. So that makes a huge difference. And actually, being 2 tenths off max last time around in Austria, if that extrapolates out and that's sort of 4 tenths off max here in Silverstone, it's not looking as amazing for Yuki Tsunoda anymore. So it's a bit of a weird one. Want a podium for Lewis? I would love that, Sally, to be fair. I think just, continue the streak. Continue the streak. Just let him have it. He's not battling for the championship or anything like that, but can we just move out of the way? Give him give him the podium for the weekend. Keep the streak and then continue on. Oh, as my stream has decided to have a moment. There we go. We are getting underway. Track clear. Oh, there you go. Session will resume at 15:21. So a couple of minutes time. Completely missed that. Came through just a second or so ago. Max Verstappen there. 0.04 of a second off Oscar Piastri's time. Again, not really looking for those fast times right now. Piastri, Verstappen, Alonso, Norris, Russell, just sort of putting in enough of a good time to get themselves through, especially considering it's a bit of a gap down to the bottom 5. Yuki Tsunoda 6.5 tenths off of the current fastest time of Piastri. Just goes to show it is incredibly competitive, but you would say that Piastri, Verstappen, Alonso, Norris, Russell are probably fairly safe. I can't imagine, Gabriel Bortoleto finding an entire second's worth of pace in this final flying lap, but have to wait and see. Esteban Ocon also down in 17th place. Nico Hülkenberg needs to improve. Colapinto is now out. Pierre Gasly down in that bottom 5. So we are going to lose 4 more drivers on top of Franco Colapinto in about a minute's time when we get qualifying back underway. Yeah, Alonso does perform actually quite well here in Silverstone. I think it's a bit of an underappreciated sequence of events from Fernando Alonso, where he does generally seem to perform pretty decently, does Fernando Alonso. Oh, Corinne Chandok complaining of the wind. The wind is blowing quite hard. The rain is starting to spit. Hope it rains in the race. It is supposed to, or at least it's been said that it might, which is about as good as the weather gets in England, to be honest with you. So, what's the weather going to be like? Well, let's roll a dice. It might be that. Here we are then. We're back underway. We're getting drivers chasing out of the pits. Everybody wants to get onto the track sooner rather than later, as the rain is threatening. There's still those little drops hitting the camera lens that we can see. So it is starting to come. Lando Norris just coming out of the pits now. Piastri, the first driver out of the pits. Albon's out there. Norris is out there. Hülkenberg and Sauber using their position in the pit lane to also jump the queue a little bit. And Oscar Piastri confirming that it seems like the rain might be worse than before. So everybody wanting to get out sooner rather than later. Get that best shot at a clean lap without it raining. It's not raining heavily. It's very drizzly rain and only on specific areas of the track. So the soft compound tire is still the choice right now. If it wasn't, we would be seeing no cars out on track because they're not going to go quicker on a set of intermediates in the rain than they are on a set of slicks on a dry track. So it is still dry enough that drivers think they will continue to find performance on those slick tires and continue to beat their previous lap times that they set on those slick tyres just sort of 10-15 minutes ago. Oscar Piastri is going to be the driver to get us underway. It's been can we argue, a little bit underwhelming from Oscar Piastri in the last few races. A couple of third places in a row. You know, after winning so many of the first few Grand Prix, hasn't really been in the fight for victory in the same way over the past couple of weekends. That's very harsh. You know, I'm talking about him being a championship contender and the sort of quality that you have to maintain, when you are a championship contender. So Oscar Piastri trying to get back to winning ways. I know it's only been a couple of races, but trying to get back to winning ways. Hello, blogger Hassan. Hope I'm well. Thank you very much. Hulkenberg is out on track. He is just starting his flying lap now. Just come through turn 3 on our screens. It's Piastri, Albon, Norris were the first out of the pits. Hulkenberg and Bortoleto just behind. Verstappen starting his flying lap as well. So let's keep an eye on the timing sheets. Oscar Piastri is actually ducked out of his lap. So Piastri maybe going for a second warm-up lap. We'll have to wait and see because Alex Albon has just gone past. Piastri slotting in behind George Russell. Hamilton and Leclerc just coming around turn 4 and 5. Is Hamilton out? No, he is, well, out on track. Yes, he's just come through the first sector, and Hamilton set a 27.977 through that first sector. Charles Leclerc just coming across the line as well, 27.990 from Charles Leclerc. So Hamilton actually getting a little bit more stable inside of that car. Alex Albon comes across the start-finish line to go third fastest. That is a very swift time from Alex Albon. My track timing is actually a little bit off, so I'm just going to adjust that a tiny touch. Apologies. Nico Hulkenberg, only 14th fastest, so out of the bottom 5 for now, but Gabriel Bortoleto has just gone even quicker to go 11th fastest. Hulkenberg now in 15th, so it's looking Hulkenberg might be out in Q1. Here comes Yuki Tsunoda. Tsunoda's down in 17th at the moment and the slowest of the Red Bull powered cars. Liam Lawson just ahead of him in 16th place. Both of those guys on flying laps. Yuki Tsunoda, 4.5 tenths of a second quicker. Ollie Behrman has just gone fastest of anybody through the middle sector. Absolutely turning up on his home Grand Prix is Ollie Behrman. Let's have a little look at this from Ollie Behrman, though. He's just coming around the final couple of corners. Through turn 16, 17 comes Ollie Behrman. Let's see where he slots in. Tsunoda has just gone 6th fastest to put himself fairly safe. Behrman goes 3rd fastest inside of that Haas car. Charles Leclerc has just been investigated for going slow under yellow flag conditions, possibly. Kimi Antonelli has gone slow through the first sector and is actually down in 16th place, but saved it in the second and third sectors, goes up to 8th fastest. And that should be good enough for now. Hamilton and Leclerc down in 11th and 13th. They are on flying laps, though. Need to improve. Charles Leclerc is actually not improving. Through the first sector, Leclerc goes, and it is a slow first sector from Charles Leclerc, considering Gabriel Bortoleto behind him 14th. Carlos Sainz also 15th place at the moment. But it's Stroll, Hulkenberg, Lawson, Colapinto, and Gasly down in that bottom 5 and all. Charles Leclerc, that was a little bit of smoke coming out of the back of that Ferrari. Maybe it was just bottoming out a touch and the sparks were flying. I thought that was smoke coming from the actual engine of that Ferrari car. Charles Leclerc goes a little bit quicker through the middle section of the lap. Hadjar has also gone slower than himself in the first sector. Lewis Hamilton wanted to go again, but does not have the fuel, so has to come into the pits. So Charles Leclerc going around. Hamilton is in 11th place. Charles Leclerc then bumps him down to 12th, and Hamilton has come into the pits. It's going to be the end of Lewis Hamilton's lap. Lance Stroll and Nico Hulkenberg can't improve. I think Liam Lawson is on a flying lap. Isaac Hadjar has just gone 8th fastest of anybody. Liam Lawson in the other RB car goes 14th fastest, so is quick enough to get himself out of that bottom 5, but Lewis Hamilton will breathe a little sigh of relief that it isn't any quicker than that. Here comes Carlos Sainz, who was quickest of anybody through the first sector. Carlos Sainz then a decent middle part of the lap as well, will surely get himself out of that bottom 5. That'll push Gabriel Bortoleto down into the bottom 5. Pierre Gasly also improving on his time through the middle sector as well. So it is Sainz and Gasly, the only 2 drivers that can save themselves. Here comes Carlos Sainz to go 8th fastest, and that puts Gabriel Bortoleto down into the bottom 5. Here comes Pierre Gasly. Gasly to improve. He's going to get it. Needs to beat Liam Lawson's time, currently 15th, and Gasly just sneaks through. Pierre Gasly up into 15th place. That slots Liam Lawson down into 16th. And out of qualifying, Lewis Hamilton, 14th place. And can breathe a big sigh of relief. I mean, he had a little bit of time. He had a 10th of a second or so to Liam Lawson. But even so, that would have been a little bit tighter than Lewis Hamilton would have wanted it to be, considering his home Grand Prix. But he's through nonetheless. Lawson, Bortoleto, Stroll, Hulkenberg, and Colapinto out of qualifying. Q1 done and dusted. Both of the Stake Sauber cars out. Liam Lawson, where was the mistake? It was a little wiggle out of turn 15. No grip, no idea what happened. Oh, might have even cut track limits there, Liam Lawson. But he's out of it anyway, down in 16th place. That's the end of his qualifying. Bortoleto 17th, Lance Stroll 18th, Nico Hulkenberg 19th, Franco Colapinto 20th after crashing out. I say crashing out. Crashing at turn 18 and then coming to a stop at turn 2, which is a little bit of a weird thing, I know, but that's what Colapinto did. So those 5 drivers out. Max Verstappen was the fastest man of anybody. Oscar Piastri then second quickest behind him. And there goes me, talking at the beginning of the session saying, oh, well, Max Verstappen not looking like he's having an amazing start to the weekend, etc., etc. Maybe Verstappen won't be there in qualifying, but his race pace looks good. And then he's top when it comes to qualifying. Never rule out Max Verstappen. How many times do I have to say it? When will I ever learn? There we are. Oscar Piastri just behind Behrman in 3rd place. Absolutely stonking lap from Ollie Behrman in front of the British crowd. The highest rated British driver there, Ollie Behrman, behind the Dutchman and the Australian. Alex Albon then in 4th. Do we count Alex Albon as British? I know he, races under the Thai flag, but we can involve Alex Albon a little bit, I think, into the conversation of British drivers. Fernando Alonso in 5th place. Lando Norris in front of his home stand, 6th fastest. Ocon, Sainz, Hadjar, Leclerc, the top 10. And then both of the Mercedes cars down in 11th and 12th place will need to improve. Tsunoda's down there, Hamilton's down there, and Gasly just about sneaking through. But imagine if those 5 drivers are the ones that go out in Q2. We lose both Ferraris and both Mercedes. When's the last time we lost both Mercedes and both Ferraris by the time we got to Q3? I can't imagine it's happened overly often. Hasn't happened yet, but Russell, Antonelli, Tsunoda, Hamilton, they do need to improve. Merck's ain't looking good. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Especially considering it's not that warm, which I know it's such a stupid thing to say every single time we talk about the Mercedes cars, but it's only 19.9 degrees. It's not, ridiculously warm. It's not like your Austria's last time out where it was hitting 50 degrees track temperature. It's 28 degrees track temperature. A little bit of rain as well. Usually sort of thrive in these conditions, the Mercedes cars, but maybe a lot of the high-speed corners that are not suiting the car as well. Can't just look at whether or not it's warm or cold. There's also the different styles of corners that they do have to contend with. But a little bit of disappointment there from Gabriel Bortoleto. I think the Stake Sauber cars were hoping they'd found a little touch of momentum over the last few Grand Prix weekends, but just hit a bit of a brick wall once again, and Bortoleto and Hulkenberg both out in this first qualifying session after Bortoleto's first points as well. 19 degrees heat, yeah. That's like a fairly standard day here, to be honest. Like, you're lucky if it gets above 20, even in the summer. Wind must be doing a number on the works. Yeah, that's a very good point as well. Pretty swift wind coming across, 17.6 kilometer an hour winds, westernly direction, as we can see at the top of the timing sheets there. So maybe also sort of hampering their balance a touch. But Antonelli and Russell both need to improve, as we are going to head into the second part of qualifying. Thank you to all of you that are watching. I think there's about 600 people in the chat right now. If you could all hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, that'd be absolutely incredible. Helps out the channel. Completely free, you know, you're completely free. You can just hit it and it's done. Looking at Zach Brown. Talking to Karun Chandok about the balance of that McLaren car, whether or not top speed is going to be a little bit of a problem for them. Also very true, the threat of rain, thinking about that. Aston brought a floor upgrade. Hope Alonso can do well. Thank you so much for the super chat. GameStar 70, much appreciated. So many investigations. Yeah, I think they're all yellow flag investigations. I don't think they're anything too dramatic to talk about. Let me just double check. Yeah, yellow flag infringement, yellow flag infringement. They're all to do with, you know, not sticking to maximum delta times. Normally, they don't really come with any major punishment. Sometimes they get a little bit of a slap on the wrist if it happens more than once, but especially considering the conditions, considering the red flag, I imagine that'll just get played off by the teams and the stewards won't end up getting too much. Franco Colapinto talking there, struggling inside of that Alpine car. We are about to start the second qualifying session of the day, though. So just to round out Q1, we did lose Liam Lawson, Gabriel Bortoleto, Lance Stroll, Nico Hulkenberg, and Franco Colapinto. Franco Colapinto losing his Alpine car at turn 17, finding himself in the barriers and having to put that car back together again. As I say, there wasn't too much damage to that Alpine. Don't think it's going to be any kind of problem for tomorrow, but it does mean that he is starting from the back of the pack. Has now had 6 races, and it'd be interesting to compare directly those 6 races of Franco Colapinto to the 6 races of Jack Doohan to see who's actually doing better, right? Because Jack Doohan had 6 races from the start of the season to Miami, and then Franco Colapinto came in at Imola and now has had 6 races through to Silverstone. So possibly do a little bit of a side-by-side of those two to see which the Alpine team should actually have picked. Would Jack Doohan be in a better position now than Franco Colapinto is? Ask yourself that question. Don't think there's a perfect answer, considering the Alpine car just isn't as good as we were hoping it was going to be either. Really hope Williams bounce back from a double DNF. Yeah, that's very true. They need a little bit of a light at the end of the tunnel to the Williams team after starting the season so well. Alex Albon becoming a mainstay inside of the point scoring places to now having a few weekends where it just hasn't quite clicked. And yeah, that double DNF, real problem with reliability inside of that Williams car at the moment. Something they've said, something they've addressed, something that they hope will be better. Should have kept doing. Yeah, I can kind of understand it. You know, it felt like a good idea to get Franco Colapinto in. We knew that Franco Colapinto had those sparks of exceptional pace inside of a Williams last year, but we just haven't really seen any of that yet. How many races did Franco get last year? Was it 9 races Franco Colapinto had last year? And now he's had 6. And, you look at those 9 races in a Williams and compare them to the 6 this season so far, or 5 this season so far. This weekend will be 6. He just doesn't look like the same driver, does he? He just doesn't quite have that same tenacity about him that he did inside of the Williams. Doesn't have that same confidence that he had inside of the Williams, and just doesn't look like the same driver that we all fell in love with when he came into that Williams car. But there we are. Let's start looking at the timing sheets once again, as Max Verstappen is going to get us underway with a flying lap time for some of the front-running cars. Let's keep an eye on it. It's a 27.649 for Max Verstappen. Little bit quicker than he was in Q, a tenth of a second quicker than he was in Q1, Max Verstappen. So it's starting to ramp it up a little bit, finding those marginal gains as he gets used to this Red Bull car in the qualifying fuel loads, in the qualifying conditions that we find ourselves today. Lewis Hamilton, not quite matching Max Verstappen's time through the first sector, but then neither did Leclerc or Tsunoda as well. Verstappen a 34.272 through the middle part of the lap. So Max Verstappen is going to set the standard pretty high here in terms of those flying lap times that he's expecting the guys behind to think about. Lewis Hamilton trying to get close. Oscar Piastri a little bit quicker. Oh, as Carlos Sainz then goes quickest of anybody through that first sector. So Piastri was getting close, but Carlos Sainz does it. Ooh. And Max Verstappen still not happy inside of that Red Bull car, even though he is fastest of anybody so far and nearly 7/10 of a second quicker than Lewis Hamilton, nearly a second quicker than Charles Leclerc. Both of the Ferraris miles off Max Verstappen's time. And Yuki Tsunoda even further still, 1.1 seconds the gap between Verstappen and Tsunoda. Piastri quickest in the second set. Oh! And Piastri matches Max Verstappen's time. That is insanely close. Well, couldn't get closer between the two. Verstappen and Piastri with the exact same lap time. George Russell complaining about his outlap not being as clean as he would have liked it to be. Fernando Alonso once again finds himself third fastest. Carlos Sainz fourth fastest. So the two Spanish drivers side by side at the moment in third and fourth. Albon has slotted into fifth place. Then Isaac Hadjar slots in just behind in sixth. Both of the Ferraris drop into now 7th and 8th. Yuki Tsunoda's down in 9th. Ollie Behrman goes quicker than the two Ferrari cars. Ollie Behrman now the quickest Ferrari-powered car out there in 7th place. And Esteban Ocon also puts both of the Hasses ahead of both of the Ferraris. This puts Yuki Tsunoda down into that bottom 5 as Norris, Russell, Antonelli and Gasly still yet to set a lap time. Lando Norris was quickest of anybody through the middle part of the lap now and is going to come across the line quickest of anybody so far. Lando Norris goes to the top of the timing sheets. Max Verstappen still in second place. George Russell and Antonelli next then. And Pierre Gasly goes 12th fastest. So just the two Mercedes cars to go. Then we have a little bit of an idea of who's going to be where in this final qualifying session. Here comes Antonelli, not good enough. Splits the Ferraris. Lewis Hamilton still 10th fastest until George Russell goes 4th fastest of anybody. Hamilton down to 11th place. And it is Hamilton, Antonelli, Leclerc, Gasly and Tsunoda, the drivers that need to improve. Ferrari's pace has fallen off a cliff. We were all talking pretty positively. And, Antonelli being told off by Fernando Alonso. Whatever Antonelli did, it didn't help him out. He was still very slow. Still 0.3 of a second adrift of getting himself up into the top 10 was Kimi Antonelli. Hamilton is also a tenth and a half off Esteban Ocon's time. So actually, you're looking at that bottom 5. They all need to find quite a bit of lap time. Antonelli needs to find 3 tenths, nearly 4 tenths. Charles Leclerc, the same, needs to find nearly 4 tenths of a second. Yuki Tsunoda needs to find nearly 7 tenths of a second in his final flying lap if he's going to be able to just beat that Esteban Ocon time. That's not to say Esteban Ocon won't improve as well. So it's looking pretty tough for those guys down in the bottom 5 right now. They need to find a lot of lap time. Then it's sort of very close. Ocon, Behrman, Hadjar, Albon, Sainz, all very tightly packed together within a tenth of a second from 6th all the way down to 10th. Just a little bit of a gap. Russell and Alonso comparable times, and then our top 3, Norris, Verstappen, Piastri, in a world of their own. It is Max Verstappen again. I thought Verstappen might struggle in qualifying here today, but he just has an ability to turn up when he needs to. And actually, I think that Red Bull is set up really nicely for the race. So quite a headache for the McLaren team if Max Verstappen does qualify very, very close to the 2 McLarens. I think he could be right in the mix for a win here, Max Verstappen, if he gets that right. Antonelli lost confidence. I think Antonelli's just lost a little bit of maybe his confidence, but I also feel like he's just not quite sure of himself as he was at the beginning of the year. There's things that just haven't quite played into his favour, Kimi Antonelli, and therefore we're just sort of waiting and seeing a little bit more than we were at the beginning of the year. Maybe it's because he's sort of almost overthinking things a touch now. You know, when you come into a new team, I suppose we saw it a little bit with Franco Colapinto last year. When you come into a new team and you've kind of got no real pressure on you to begin with, because everybody sort of gives you a bit of a free hit for those first 5 or 6 Grand Prix, don't they? And Antonelli, without that pressure, maybe inside of those first 5, 6 Grand Prix, was able to just go for it. Now the pressure is there, right? He's had those Grand Prix, shown that he's got that pace inside of the car. Now we want to be seeing, can he get closer to his teammate? The pressure builds, and yeah, it feels like at the moment, Kimi Antonelli just not quite enjoying being inside of that Mercedes car as he was right at the beginning of the year. Here we are then. Drivers are coming out. The 2 Ferraris nearly getting in front of one another. Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton trying to get out in front of the McLaren. They managed to just cut in front of the McLaren there. So coming down the pit lane. Verstappen is first out of anybody. It's then Albon and Behrman. Lando Norris then did manage to get out before the Ferraris. But Oscar Piastri got caught out by a few there in terms of the traffic inside of the pit lane. Oh, thank you for another super chat. How does one know when the car in front is giving dirty air or slipstream? They're kind of one in the same. Dirty air is more cornering. So through the corners, through the twisty parts of the track, you don't want to be behind somebody because you don't really gain too much in those areas where you're behind them and you're getting that dirty air. Whereas in the straights, when you're going down a DRS zone, that's when you want to be behind somebody getting a slipstream. So if you think of somewhere like Monza, for instance, Monza's brilliant because you've got those really long straights. So you kind of want to be behind somebody because they give you that slipstream. And then there isn't too many corners at Monza where you really have to worry about dirty air too much. Whereas other tracks, say somewhere like a Singapore, where there isn't really those long straights or anything like that, the dirty air really plays into effect. There's a lot of slower corners that you have to worry about. But yeah, great answer. Yeah, it's sort of the corners versus the straights and what kind of balance there is between those on the circuit. Thank you for the new subs. Thank you indeed. Thank you, Sally, for thank you the new subs. Hammer time for Lewis Hamilton indeed. 11 fastest at the moment. Kimi Antonelli, 3 tenths of a second off of Esteban Ocon's time. What's my favorite circuit? It's on the wall. Here we are then. Let's see what we can do here. Oh, Blackstar also with a super chat. No message, but $2. Appreciate that. Super chat's rolling in today. Massively appreciate that. What's the most difficult track? Yeah, Monaco. Monaco's the hardest one to get right. If you've ever played the the Formula One game, Monaco's always the one you dread. Here we are then. 2 minutes, 20 seconds to go. The cars are coming around and starting their final flying laps. Let's have a look at those lap times as they come through. Verstappen a 27.8. Albon 27.8. Ollie Behrman a 27.6 through the first sector. Ollie Behrman is absolutely on one today, isn't he? Third fastest in Q1. Wants to be in that top 10 guaranteed. Flying around here. Haas do generally do quite well here at Silverstone. I think because it's such a sort of high throttle track. You're on the throttle. I think it's like 80 odd % of the lap time, as Lewis Hamilton then goes purple in the first sector, 27.5 from Lewis Hamilton. And that is very decent indeed. Looking like he might be safe overall if he can just hang it together for a fairly decent middle part of the lap. Charles Leclerc improves through the first part of the lap. 27.617 from Charles Leclerc. Both of the Ferraris, again, need to improve. So does Kimi Antonelli. There is a lot of pressure on this final minute of qualifying for the Scuderia. But Lewis Hamilton has found even more time in that middle part of the lap. He's now 0.5 of a second quicker than Esteban Ocon's current time, which would put him 4th fastest at the moment, is Lewis Hamilton. Ollie Behrman comes across the line 5th fastest now as Charles Leclerc goes to the top of the timing sheets. Is 1/10 of a second better off than Lando Norris. And then Lewis Hamilton comes across the line and also goes to the top. So Hamilton and Leclerc not leaving it to chance. Fresh set of tyres onto both of the Ferrari cars, and they made it happen. Very decent indeed from both of the Ferraris. But as you can see, Verstappen behind, Norris as well on used tyres. That's one less set of soft compound tyres for the Ferrari team in Q3. See how that plays out in terms of their positioning when it comes to the top 10 shootout. Yuki Tsunoda's only put himself 10th fastest. And Antonelli is going to come across the line as well. So I think Yuki Tsunoda might be out again here. Tsunoda's only gone 10th fastest. Albon is in behind. Hadjar improves. Hadjar might be out as well. Yeah, Hadjar's only gone 11th fastest. Hadjar only 11th fastest. Ocon, I think, has just started a flying lap. No, Ocon's finished his lap as well, so he's gone. Here comes Gasly across the line to put Tsunoda down into that bottom 5. Gasly up into 9th place, and Gasly once again doing well in qualifying trim inside of that Alpine car. Here comes Kimi Antonelli to go 8th fastest and drop Carlos Sainz into that bottom 5. That is Yuki Tsunoda out, Carlos Sainz out, Hadjar, Albon, and Ocon. Wow, okay. Some of the drivers that we've become fairly accustomed to seeing in Q3 there. Albon and Hadjar in particular, been pretty much consistently in Q3 this season. Both of them had very good starts to the year. But both of the Ferraris have made it. Both of the Mercedes have made it. Can breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief. And Albon apologizes to the team, says that he made it difficult for himself. Completely different car. Yeah, Albon not happy at all in 14th place. Both of the Williams cars out at their home Grand Prix. And that's a little bit disappointing considering, as I say, Alex Albon in particular has been pretty much a common name in Q3. Maybe not over the last few weekends. That Williams car just falling away from where it started the season in terms of its pace. Carlos Sainz was the quicker of the two. He starts in 11th place tomorrow. Yuki Tsunoda 12th, Isaac Hadjar 13th, Alex Albon 14th, and Esteban Ocon was the slowest driver in that Q2 session. Lawson, Bortoleto, Stroll, Hulkenberg, and Colapinto already out, remember, back in Q1. And we do have the final 10 drivers then. A top 10 shootout for the ages. Hamilton, Leclerc, Norris, Verstappen, Piastri, Behrman, Alonso, Antonelli, Russell, and Gasly all through to that top 10. Are all of the British drivers in there? I think they are, right? I suppose it depends how you classify Albon. Races under the tie flag, so let's call him tie. But Hamilton's in there, Norris is in there, Behrman's in there, Russell's in there, all four of the drivers that race under the British flag, all four drivers that would call this their home Grand Prix are into that top 10. Ollie Behrman is going to get a grid drop. That is very true. Does have that penalty after free practice 3. Kimi Antonelli also has a 3-place penalty hanging over him from last time out in Austria as well. So there's a few penalties to come into play. Ollie Behrman's the most significant one to keep an eye on, which is a shame because he has been absolutely electric in terms of the qualifying so far. But yeah, 10-place grid drop for Ollie Behrman. That is devastating, isn't it? So even if he does qualify 6th, he's going to start 16th. I mean, I understand it. He did go too fast during a red flag. But at the same time, just let him off. Please, just this once, let's Ferrari do something right. Hamilton always brings his A game at Silverstone. It's very true. 7-time pole sitter, 8 the loading. I think it's more the podium. The podiums in a row is the real thing, right? How long to Q3? Couple of minutes. Just waiting for them to reset and recalibrate. Everybody is back in. There's no cars out on track at the moment. Ooh. And Esteban Ocon. Big lockup in the final couple of corners. Oh, okay. Yeah, Esteban Ocon made that front left tyre look a bit like a 50-pence piece before he managed to get his flying lap in. And that's why Esteban Ocon dropped out. Gasly dragging his French dustbin to Q3. Gasly does have a way of just absolutely rattling through a performance when it comes to qualifying. He even did this in his sort of AlphaTauri days, didn't he? Was constantly getting AlphaTauri cars into Q3, even when they weren't the most competitive cars out there. Thank you for the $2 as well, Dan's Dumb Life. Appreciate it. Thank you to all the super chats today, actually. We've had quite a few super chats coming in, quite a few new subscribers as well. 1,000 people in the chat right now. If we all just hit that like button, that'd be absolutely amazing. How's the short stream doing? We're live not just on YouTube, but also on YouTube Shorts. So if you are joining us on the short stream, welcome. You can join the main stream if you would prefer. There's a little bit more detail on there, track map and various things like that. So worth joining us over on the main stream if you are on the short stream. But we are about to get underway for the final qualifying session of the weekend here in Silverstone. And 10 drivers in it. Carlos Sainz, Yuki Tsunoda will start at 11th and 12th. Depending on where Behrman qualifies, depending on where Antonelli qualifies, Sainz and Tsunoda might actually end up starting inside of the points. But at the moment, they're 11th and 12th fastest. Hadjar 13th, Albon 14th, and Ocon 15th with the 5 drivers that we lost in Q2. And then we had Liam Lawson, Bortoleto, Stroll, Hulkenberg, and Colapinto as the 5 drivers as well. Can I stream on Kick so some part of the money would go to Sauber? I can see the line. I can see the line. But as a McLaren fan, surely, you know, I'm a Google boy. I'm a Google man. I don't know what it is about YouTube. I've always just been drawn to YouTube more than anything else. I think it's because I watch a lot of YouTube. I never really have watched, I've never even Googled Kick, to be honest. So I've never even logged into a Kick account. And then Twitch, I sometimes use, sometimes watch Fair. But TTVI Dog. Yes, you can. Hello. Why does Williams love having prone crashing drivers like Gotifi, Sargent, Colapinto, Maldonado, Albon? I think the Williams car, well, you picked a few drivers from last year. We sort of saw that the Williams car last year was prone to crashes, not because of the drivers so much, but also because it was really difficult to drive. But I know what you mean. Yeah, they do seem to be able to pick out of the bunch. Multi-stream is viable now. That's very true. Maybe I should give back to the Kick audience. But yeah, it's got a little bit, as Sally just said, a little bit of a dodgy reputation has Kick. Not sure it's quite there for me. I'm just not the dodgiest of, Formula One YouTubers. If you want, your real out there jokes about things that I find a little bit over the mark sometimes, there's other YouTubers out there that you can choose for that. Not that I'm, ridiculously family friendly, but I find there's a middle ground. Oscar Piastri, that was pretty painful. I think wanting to get out a little bit earlier in the queue, Oscar Piastri, but Behrman came out first, then Verstappen and Antonelli. So Piastri is going to be the 4th driver out on track. Norris following him out. George Russell there as well. First time on the stream. Thank you, D-Pro. Watching the shorts for quite a long time. Appreciate that. Why do they keep resetting the times? Do you mean like between the qualifying sessions? It's kind of the point. So each qualifying session, you set your respective time and then it gets wiped. If you're in the top 15 in the first qualifying session, then you make it through. If you're in the top 10 in the second qualifying session, then you make it through. But again, each session, the times are wiped. So you have to get yourself into that position again, basically. It means that we don't just get everybody qualifying, putting in one flying lap and sort of being like, well, that's what I got. If you are Max Verstappen, especially in the dominance era of 2023, imagine just Max came out right at the beginning, put in a flying lap, and then we had to watch an hour of everybody else get nowhere near it. At least in this case, there's a bit of jeopardy. He has to do it at least 3 times. Oh, thank you, Divin, for the super chat as well. Who do I think is going to win the race? I really would like Lando Norris to win it. Just because, home Grand Prix, inside of McLaren, I think the storyline would be great. And the fact that it would close that championship gap a little bit more, I do want the championship to be really, really tight going into the final 10 races of the season. But, Lando Norris has had some ins and outs when it's come to the Silverstone Grand Prix before. Doesn't always go in his favour, let's just say. But here we are then. Behrman is going to set the standard, I think. Yeah, Behrman, the first car on a flying lap, just coming through the middle part of it now in his Haas. And Max Verstappen there as well. Oscar Piastri has just gone quickest of anybody through the first sector. Lando Norris can't keep with him. Lando Norris, a 10th of a second or so behind his teammate. Max Verstappen, quickest of anybody through the middle sector so far. So Verstappen is going to set the fastest lap, it seems, although Ollie Behrman is going to come across first. 25.8 from Ollie Behrman, but Verstappen going quicker. Piastri quicker in the first sector than anybody so far at the moment, and the second sector. So Piastri is turning up the heat inside of that McLaren car. Second sector quicker than anybody. Here comes Max Verstappen, a 25.2. Quicker by 0.5 of a second than Q2. But Oscar Piastri is on a storming lap right now. Here comes Oscar Piastri around the final couple of corners. And Piastri is going to go top of the timing sheets, a 125.9. It's a 124.9, sorry. That is a very, very swift lap indeed. Lando Norris is only 0.2 of a second off of his teammate. It's a McLaren front row at the moment with Max Verstappen just behind. Kimi Antonelli was over a second off the pace, with George Russell then coming across the start-finish line to go fourth fastest. So Russell's still some time to find. And Max Verstappen still complaining about the balance. Lewis Hamilton comes across the line second fastest. Lewis Hamilton has just found some pace from absolutely nowhere. Stunning. Splits the two McLaren cars, does Lewis Hamilton. So it's Piastri, Hamilton, Norris, Verstappen, Leclerc, our top five at the moment. Fernando Alonso then, seventh fastest of anybody. Pierre Gasly yet to set a lap time. But Lewis Hamilton, take a bow. Second fastest of anybody at the moment. Of course, we do have more than enough time for the drivers to get another flying lap in. But Piastri, Hamilton, Norris are top three at the moment. The Australian breaking British hearts. Both of the British favourites behind in second and third place. George Russell as well down in sixth place. Ollie Behrman 8th, that would turn to 18th. Antonelli 9th, that would turn to 12th. So remember, a 10-place penalty for Behrman, a 3-place penalty for Antonelli to be applied. So keep an eye on those two as well, because if you're a Carlos Sainz or a Yuki Tsunoda fan, at the moment, they would be starting inside of the point-scoring places, despite not getting through to Q3. Pierre Gasly also now out and about in his Alpine. I think he's going to go for a flying lap all by himself. And Gasly then on a set of used tyres as well, I think, Gasly. So no fresh tyres for the Alpine. Probably needed to use them to get through to Q3, to be honest. Pretty did very well indeed to get through to Q3, did Gasly. Will start at least 9th place, depending on where Behrman and Antonelli are. Behrman's going to drop back 10 places, so Gasly will start at worst in 9th. Oscar Piastri carrying that speed through Stowe. Round turn 16 he goes. And it was a very swift lap from Piastri. Getting into the 124s sets a real line in the sand for everybody else. It's going to be very tight indeed. Yeah, Piastri gets a little bit of curve. The sparks flying as he comes around the final couple of corners, Oscar Piastri, but more than good enough for pole position. Fastest in every sector so far. And exactly what you want to see if you're an Oscar Piastri fan. Leading the championship, provisional pole. Everything's going well so far. Lewis Hamilton then behind in second. Remember that 13-year streak Lewis Hamilton has. 13 podium positions in a row. Trying to make it 14 in his first year at Ferrari. Lando Norris trying to close the gap in on his teammate in the championship. Third fastest at the moment. Verstappen in fourth. Charles Leclerc fifth. George Russell sixth. Alonso seventh. We have Behrman in eighth that would drop to 18th. Antonelli in ninth that would drop to 12th. And Pierre Gasly down in 10th place at the moment, was 2 seconds off the pace, was Pierre Gasly. So not really a flying lap time from the Alpine in the same kind of vein as the others. Both of the McLaren cars, though, making their way out. Sally, thank you so much. Sent 5 gifted memberships. That is ridiculous. Thank you so much, Sally. You really don't have to. Lando first out of the pits of the two McLarens. Of course, Antonelli, Russell, Behrman out first. So the Mercedes cars wanting to get a little bit of clean air, possibly, for Kimi Antonelli. Antonelli is now coming down towards turn 6. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. This is where it really counts. We've had an hour and a bit of streaming. If you could hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you do, that'd be absolutely amazing, because we are closing in on the crunch point. Antonelli, Russell, Behrman, our first 3 drivers across the start-finish line, but all eyes are on the 2 behind. Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. Which of the two McLarens will be on that top spot for tomorrow? Leclerc and Hamilton behind, trying to cause a little bit of an upset. Alonso behind as well, coming out of the pits now. Gasly also coming out of the pits again for Alpine. Has he got a fresh set of softs? He has got a fresh set of softs, has Gasly. And Max Verstappen. If there's going to be anybody to ruin the McLaren party, will it be Max Verstappen, who is just making his way out of the pits now, last of anybody. So the final lap time is going to be set by the current world champion, Max Verstappen. Kimi Antonelli has just started his flying lap coming through turn 1 and turn 2. Keep an eye on Kimi Antonelli's first sector time. Needs a big improvement because remember, he does have that 3-place grid penalty, Kimi Antonelli. So needs to improve dramatically. It's going to be very tight, isn't it? Antonelli comes across that first sector line, a 27.6 for Kimi Antonelli. What can George Russell, his teammate, do? Let's compare the two Mercedes cars as they come through. 27.6 as well from George Russell. So Antonelli pretty much matching Russell at the moment through that first part of the lap. Ollie Behrman nearly a 28. Oh, no, sorry, nearly a 27.8. We're getting closer and closer. Lando Norris a 27.659. It's not purple in any way. It's 0.04 of a second slower than Piastri's last lap time. Here comes Oscar Piastri himself. And Piastri goes quicker in that first sector. It's not by much, but it's those margins that count. The 4/500ths of a second. That is splitting Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri through that first part of the lap will be decisive. Here comes Lando Norris flat through this middle part of the lap. Cuts the sector timing sheet and goes quickest of anybody through that middle part of the lap does Lando Norris. Here comes Oscar Piastri as well. Can Piastri do better than his teammate? No. Piastri is about a 1/10 of a second down on Norris through that middle part of the lap. So this is going to be very tight indeed as Lando Norris is making his way through the final couple of corners and across the start-finish line. Oh, it's agonizingly close. 15 thousandths of a second. It's a poor final sector from Lando Norris. Piastri, for the time being, will stay at the top. Can he improve on his own time? No. Piastri remains first, but Lewis Hamilton is going quick in the middle part of the lap. If anybody can do it, Lewis Hamilton has proven that Silverstone is his playground. He is there through Sector 2. He was very quick indeed. Max Verstappen has just gone quickest of anybody through the first sector as well. It is not guaranteed for these two McLaren cars. Here comes Lewis Hamilton then. Oh, and he did lose time. He's a 1/10 of a second off. Hamilton 4th fastest of anybody. Charles Leclerc 5th fastest as well. So Lando Norris is safe in second place at the moment. I thought he was going to be under threat there from Lewis Hamilton. George Russell also in 3rd place ahead. Max Verstappen, though, has just gone quickest of anybody through the middle part of the lap. This is looking very tidy indeed from Max Verstappen. He's going to be the last man across the start-finish line. He's 6th fastest at the moment. Quickest in the first sector, quickest in the second sector, quickest in the 3rd sector as well. Max Verstappen takes pole position. And he is going to be on pole again. A fist bump for Max Verstappen. And that is an electric lap to find a 1/10 of a second on Oscar Piastri as well. Stunning from Red Bull and Max Verstappen. How does he do it? He can just find that pace, can't he, Max Verstappen? It is a ridiculously quick lap. He was actually slower in that final sector. I saw the purple come across, but it was the purple because his lap was quicker. But the first and second sectors from Max Verstappen were phenomenal. Phenomenal is the word I was looking for. Piastri will start in 2nd place. George Russell will start in 4th with Lando Norris side by side, and all British 3rd, 4th, 5th So all British second row with Hamilton starting in 5th place behind. All Ferrari 3rd row of the grid. Kimi Antonelli will start in 10th place. He will drop back 3 positions. Ollie Behrman will start in 18th place. He will drop back 10 positions. So Alonso and Gasly move up. Carlos Sainz will start inside of the points as well. And then Yuki Tsunoda will start just outside in 11th place. Shuffle everybody up. So Tsunoda, Hadjar, Albon, Ocon, Lawson, Bortoletto, Stroll will all gain a position. Ollie Behrman will slot in there in 18th place, which is pretty harsh considering how good of a qualifying he had. Then Hulkenberg and Colapinto will start at the back of the grid. What a flying lap from Max Verstappen that was. Thank you guys so much for watching. Appreciate you stopping by. It was another electric qualifying session in Formula One. Like, Formula One this season feels like sometimes it's going to just slow down a little bit, but just continues to deliver. Max Verstappen looked nowhere near as competitive as I was expecting this weekend, and then bang, turns up in qualifying, does it when it matters, pole position again. Piastri and Norris, really solid laps from them as well. Be interesting to see the battle between those two. Will Piastri cover Norris, or will Piastri go for Verstappen at the beginning of the race? We'll have to wait and see. George Russell again doing a brilliant job slotting into 4th place. Ferrari a little bit further back than we were expecting. Maybe a little bit off the pace in comparison to what they were showing earlier on in the weekend. But then Antonelli, Behrman, Alonso, Gasly all making up that top 10 for now. As I say, Antonelli dropping back 3 positions. Behrman dropping back 10 positions for tomorrow's race. And we will be live on the channel once again for tomorrow's race. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you leave a like as you're leaving. Appreciate you all stopping by. I will be back for that race tomorrow at 2:30 sharp for the British Grand Prix. It is going to be tense. It is going to be close. Any of those top 6 I could see winning tomorrow. It's going to be all down to the conditions, possibly rain coming into play as well. It is vintage Silverstone. I cannot wait for it, and I'll see you there.